Welcome once again to our new session of Premade Pro, and today we're going to end up this chapter of excretion. And today we will start with the RAS mechanism that I've already started in the previous lecture, and I will continue with the next steps of the RAS mechanism, and we'll end up with the disorders of excretory systems, related disorders. Okay, so continuation of the RAS system. Continuation of RAS system. So what happens? RAS, the second point must be of by JGA, that is by juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay, the RAS system, RAS full form is renin, single N, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Okay, aldosterone system. Okay, so what it operates? It operates when the GFR, that is the glomerular filtration rate, glomerular filtration rate lowers. Okay, when it operates when the blood volume lowers, when the blood pressure lowers. So in three occasions we generally see the RAS system in action. Okay, when the GFR lowers, it provides signals to JG cell, that is the juxtaglomerular cells, to produce renin. So if the question comes from where the renin is secreted, it is the JG cells. Okay, so what does the renin does? Renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 Okay, so angiotensin 1 by ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme by ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, ACE converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. Okay, so what happens when the angiotensin 2 is formed? It directly acts on PCT, the proximal convoluted tubule, directly acts on the PCT. So when it acts on the PCT, what it absorbs as sodium and hydrogen. H2 is reabsorbed. Sodium and H2O is reabsorbed more. Okay, so when the sodium and water is reabsorbed, ultimately the blood volume increases. As sodium and water is reabsorbing, so the blood volume increases. Thus, when the blood volume increases, the blood pressure and the GFR also increases. Okay, so and the angiotensin 2 again acts on adrenal cortex. So angiotensin acts in two receptors, the receptors that are on the PCT as well as the receptors that are on the adrenal cortex. Okay, so it acts on and releases aldosterone. Okay, so releasing aldosterone happens what? Makes the GFR increases, the blood pressure increases, and act on DCT. Thus the sodium and water reabsorbs. Ultimately, angiotensin, what does the angiotensin finally does? Angiotensin 2 finally functions as vasoconstrictor, which results in increased GFR and increased blood pressure. Okay, so that's the function of angiotensin 2. Now, by the atrial natriuretic factor, it is secreted, a hormone secreted by the heart. Okay, so by ANF, full form is atrial natriuretic factor. Okay, atrial natriuretic factor. So what happens? It is produced by the wall of atria. Wall of the atria produces it. Okay. Next, what happens if the wall of the atria produces it? It ultimately forms, increases blood volume, increases blood pressure, and increases GFR. So blood flow via heart. So in response to this, heart produces ANF. So when the RAS system is in action, the blood pressure goes up, the GFR goes up, as well as the blood volumes goes up. To inhibit this, but to restrict this, but to check this RAS system, ANF comes into action. So ANF inhibits the action of RAS system. Okay, to switch off the RAS system ultimately. So ANF checks upon the RAS. Okay, that is inhibit. Now, no aldosterone, no sodium and H2O reabsorption. So ultimately the sodium is eliminated via urine. That is the natriuretic factor. That is why it is called the natriuretic factor, because the sodium, it makes the sodium eliminated by the urine. Okay, and the third point goes to the vasodilation. It dilates the vessel. So ultimately the BP goes down as well as the GFR goes down. Okay, so these are the countercurrent mechanism of the RAS and the ANF. Okay, now next comes to the next part. So what is the next part? Give the topic. The role of other organ in excretion. एक्सक्रीशन में अदर ऑर्गन का क्या रोल है? ठीक, रोल ऑफ अदर ऑर्गन इन एक्सक्रीशन. Okay, the lungs also functions as an excretory organ. Okay, the function of lungs, our lungs eliminates out approx 200 ml per minute CO2, and along with that H2O. Okay, that is the H2O vapor. Okay. Now next, the liver. What is the liver? Our liver is the largest gland of our body, and the largest organ of our body is the skin. Okay, the liver is the largest gland of our body. Now what happens? It synthesizes bile. synthesizes bile. It synthesizes bile. Eliminates bile pigments. Eliminate bile pigments. Bilirubin, biliverdin, cholesterol, degraded steroid hormone, drugs, vitamins, etc. Okay, it degrades the function of the liver, includes the degradation of the bilirubin, biliverdin, drugs, steroid hormones, etc. Most of the excretion, most of these through feces. Feces means stool. Okay. The third is skin. Skin is also an excretory organ. By how? The skin, the sweat oblique pseudorrheic gland. So what does the sweat means? Sweat. The primary function is cooling. Okay, but it also eliminates small amount of urea, lactic acid, NaCl, and H2O. Okay, and the sebaceous gland, oblique oil glands, sebum. It eliminates the hydrocarbon waxes sterols. Okay, it eliminates the hydrocarbon waxes and the sterols. Okay, so now take it as a note. What? A small amount of nitrogenous wastes can be eliminated via saliva too. Okay, small amount of nitrogenous waste can be eliminated by saliva too. Okay, now the next part. We come to the disorders of the excretory system. I am ending with a pace this time because 5 to 6 lectures as this is the last lecture. So I am trying to keep it the matter gist, because questions, too much hard questions doesn't come from this part. Okay, disorders. The first one is glomerulonephritis. Glomerular comes from the word glomerulus, and itis means inflammation. So it is the inflammation of glomerulus. Okay, so glomerulonephritis means it's inflammation of the glomerulus. So inflammation in the glomeruli, plural is glomeruli, or filtration membrane. Okay, inflammation in the glomeruli or the filtration membrane. What it happens? Abnormal filtration may occur, leading to the loss of useful substances like protein via urine. Loss of useful substances, that is protein via urine. and this disease is called proteinuria. Okay, proteinuria. The next one is the stone of kidney. It is called the renal stone, renal caliculi, or the stone in kidney. Okay, insoluble mass of crystallized salts like calcium oxalate, मोस्ट कॉमन कैल्शियम ऑक्सलेट का सॉल्ट ही मोस्ट कॉमन है रेनल कैलिकुली के लिए. मोस्ट कॉमन इज कैल्शियम ऑक्सलेट, कैल्शियम फॉस्फेट, यूरिक एसिड, salts, etc. Okay, formed in the kidney may be due to excess calcium level, less water intake, etc. Okay, these are the main reason of the renal caliculi: excessive calcium deposition, or what we say, the less intake of water. Okay, the next we come as uremia. What does it define? Uremia: accumulation of urea in the blood. Accumulation of urea in the blood due to malfunction of inefficient, or it is called inefficient functioning of kidneys. In such cases hemodialysis is recommended. Hemodialysis means artificial kidney to filter out blood. It is also given on CKD 5 on RRT, that is renal replacement therapy. Okay, got it. The next part, the last part, is hemodialysis. What is hemodialysis? Okay, what is the hemodialysis? I am drawing a few steps here. Okay, please try to understand it. Okay. Let it be a hand. Here, blood is taken out from the radial artery. Okay, I am drawing artery in red. Let it be the radial artery. Blood is, in step 1, blood is taken out via radial artery. See, in emergency cases, we need to make some central line in case there is no AV grafting has been done on the patient, and if we require emergency dialysis, we need to make a central line over here. Okay, so if a patient is suspected patient of CKD and dialysis is required in emergency condition, we generally make a central line. But if we prognose the patients that the patient may require a hemodialysis in the future or near future, we generally opt that patient to undergo AV fistula grafting, that is the arterial venas are being connected so that the blood can be taken from the radial artery and can be filtered out by the artificial kidney, that is the dialysis machine, and can be returned through the vein. So the central line is not required in a AV grafted patient. Okay, so blood is taken out via the radial artery. Okay, 2. The next part is bring it to OC and add heparin. It is an anticoagulant. Okay. Anticoagulant. So, in the dialysing machine, what we find, let it be a dialysis machine. What we generally see, okay, here it is a cellophane tube. It's semi-permeable, porous. Here the urea is taken out because here it is a dialyzing solvent. Dialyzing solvent is there outside the cellophane membrane, and the dialyzing solvent is same as of the plasma, but it is lack of the nitrogenous waste. So what happens? Blood is passed through this cellophane tube. Okay. So composition of the dialyzing solvent, composition is similar to plasma except nitrogenous waste. Okay. Now what happens? Taken. Now the blood comes from this side, from the cellophane. Urea into waste can easily move out into the dialyzing solution. What happens? Blood is now purified. Now the blood is purified. What happens? Bring it to the body temperature and add antiheparin. The last step is return the blood into the patient, into the vein of the patient. Return the blood into the vein of the patient. Return this blood via radial vein. Okay. The blood is now returned via the radial vein. Okay. The last part of this chapter is acute renal failure. Acute failure and chronic failure are different things. Acute failure is the incident is happening in a first state, okay, suddenly, okay, and the chronic failure is incident is happening at a long period of time. Okay. Now it's an acute renal failure. What do you mean by the acute renal failure? That is also called the kidney failure. So kidney transplantation is the only solution. Kidney transplantation is the only solution. suitable donor is found. First looked amongst the family member. First looked among the closest relative. Next, organ with maximum HLA match, human leukocyte antigen, HLA match or tissue matching. In general word, tissue matching is selected. Okay. Now, such patient are given immunosuppressant like cortisol, cyclosporin A. This is apart from NCRT. Generally, we use tacrolimus as an immunosuppressant for a transplanted patient. Tacrolimus. We need to test the blood. We need to do a regular blood test of the patient to check of any tacrolimus toxicity as tacrolimus is used for a prolonged time to avoid unwanted immunoresponses. Okay, so we have completed this chapter. I think no further questions except this will come from this chapter in the exam. So please go through it and please subscribe this channel and please share and like. And if you have any problem, please write it in the comment box. Thank you. Good night.